Let me share some screen. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, so can I recommend a motion to, instead of me presiding, have Grace preside? Grace? Uh, Mason? Okay, thank you. Jay. Hello, I call this meeting to order at 7:04. Now I'm gonna have roll call by Samaya. Yala, Amaya, Sanaa, Latasha, Jayla, Ray, Alexander Ortiz, Nevaeh, Jessica, Zaire, Leanna, Hillary, Caleb, Maya, Fatima, Ahmed, Samir, Derek, Maisha, Marcel, Grace, Kimberly, Daniel, Charlotte, Jayla, Julia, Alex, Fox, Melody, Fatima, Mason, Tia, sorry, Aiden, Jane, and Elizabeth. Thank you, Samaya. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? It was sent out Sunday by Samaya. Grace? Can I get a second? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Grace? Can I get a second? Student forum. Do I have any students in the audience that would like to speak? We have no old business. New business. First off, we have Speaker Bob Shea, who is our Vice Chancellor of Finance.
Can I go ahead and minimize this and call up my slides here? So this is my second time here. I presented about a year ago at the invitation of Jordan and Mason, who are two of your senators who I meet with pretty frequently throughout the academic year. And they asked me to come to present tonight on two things. Basically Budget 101, which we'll go through rather quickly, and then a presentation that the Chancellor just released today to the entire community, and I'll talk to that. But before I do that, I want to introduce some of my colleagues who are here tonight. So Dr. Debbie Storrs, the provost, is here, and she has presented to you before. And Dr. Kathy Akins, the head of Student Life is here. Andrew Hamilton, Dean of Students. Oh, we get a round of applause for Andrew. And then my financial leadership team is here. Paul Forte, who is the ABC for Finance. Michelle Laudenbacher, who is the Director of Budgets and Financial Planning. And to her right is Dr. Ghazal Abibi, who is our University Controller. So we thought we brought, and our police chief is here too, Eric Boyce, who's one of my colleagues on the team. So thanks for being here, folks. We thought it was important tonight because there's a lot of chatter on campus about the budget. And we wanted to present to you the facts of how money is spent here at UNCG and to talk about some of the things that are going on campus and to give you the opportunity to ask questions. So this is a presentation that the provost and I have given dozens of times. And I do it for a graduate school class, Higher Ed Finance 101. We've done it in the class Budgeting and Financial Management in Higher Education. This is the second time we've given it to SGA. And on Monday afternoon, we're giving it to the Graduate Student Association and a multitude of other groups on campus. There we go. So just the agenda, we already did the intros a little bit. We'll go through the different funding streams. Why should you care? How can you help? Fiscal transparency, the importance of enrollment, which is why I listed it, enrollment, 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 revenue expenses, and then give you the opportunity for questions. Oops, it's not advancing. Can you give me a, let's see, page down, page up. Working here. There we go. Already introduced Debbie. I think it's really important that you know that Debbie is a first-generation college student, just like I am. She's the second ranking leader here at UNCG. So when the chancellor isn't here, Dr. Storrs is the leader. She's responsible for the entire academic program, student life, research, and a wide variety of other programs. She earned her PhD in sociology at the University of Oregon. Debbie, did I say that right? Is it East Coast Oregon or Oregon? She was the interim provost at the University of North Dakota before she came here, and she was also the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of North Dakota. And then my team, Paul Forte is a CPA. He was the CFO at App State before he came here. He was at two universities in Rhode Island, and he was also at UNC Charlotte before he came here. Dr. Ghazal Abibi is a UNCG grad. She just earned her DBA, which is a doctorate in business administration, which is a doctorate, a terminal degree. She's our university controller, which means she takes care of the money as we spend it. Michelle has responsibility for the money before we spend it. So planning and then execution. Michelle is our budget director and head of financial planning. She's been here a long time, 25 years, Michelle? 26 years. And prior to working in finance and administration, she worked in academic affairs. My background, I've been at UNCG for about 3.5 years, was at Elon prior to that. Higher ed's my second career. I had a full 25-year career in the Navy. Like Debbie, I'm a first-generation college grad, much like you. I've been married to my wife for 38 years. We live here about 20 miles away in Burlington. And every night I go home to a 6.5-year-old chocolate lab who wags her tail every night. She loves me no matter what decision I make at work. And that's probably the only living being that does that. So what are we going to talk about? Funding streams. This is how the revenue comes into UNCG. State appropriation, taxpayers' dollars. So people that pay their taxes, a portion of that comes to UNCG. State appropriations, that's about $200 million a year. Tuition and fees, the money that you pay to UNCG. Net tuition revenue, so we have gross and then there's financial aid. subtract out the financial aid, then we have net tuition revenue. That number is about $95 million a year. Then student financial aid that comes from the federal government and a little from the state government. Sales and services, so tuition, room and board, parking. Grants and contracts, the endowment, annual fundraising, and federal and state stimulus. Anybody have any questions about that, those sources of revenue? What's different about a public university and a private university is that state appropriation. That is the state's investment in UNCG. So the all-in price for a student at UNCG without any financial aid, taking the average room and board, tuition and fees, is just under $20,000 a year. The reason we can charge $20,000 a year is because of that state appropriation. For a private school, similar tuition, room and board and fees without state appropriation, the average tuition, room and board and fees at most private schools averages around $50,000 a year. So that's the difference that state appropriation makes. Why should you care? These next bullets that I show up are aimed at a employee audience, right? Oftentimes people say that higher education isn't a business, but we are. We're a $460 million a year business. And I asked a question of our employees. Do you count on the university for your salary? And all hands go up. For your health care, for your retirement contribution, for yours and your family's financial foundation, our shared financial security as a community, and the benefits a university brings to its community and its citizens. So our chancellor often talks about a shared fate. We have a shared fate. We have a lot of different constituent groups on a university campus, and I'll talk to that a little bit towards the end of the presentation. So I see a few of you taking notes furiously. I'm going to share these slides with you, so don't feel like you have to take notes because I'm going to forward them to you. So fiscal transparency. If you want to learn about how UNCG spends its money, all of our information is on a website. And if you click on university financial statements and the hyperlinks in this, it'll take you immediately to that page. But if you just go to UNCG's website and type in finance or financial reports, it will take you to that page. And on that page is the university's audited financial statements, which the state auditor gives us a financial report card every year. And Ghazala is responsible for that exercise, which is a huge exercise, and it's nearing completion. Ghazala, we anticipate what, the second week of November to get our report out. And once we get that and we brief the Board of Trustees, we post that on our website for everyone to see. We have information for the last 20 years on that website. So when people say that UNCG isn't being transparent, that's not true. If you care to learn about how UNCG spends its money, it's there for everyone to see. The next thing on that website is the fiscal profile, which is a compilation of how UNCG spends its money over a 5-year period. How many in here? I know Mason's from the Bryan School. Anybody else from the Bryan School? What's the difference between financial reporting and managerial reporting? Anyone? There's no grade, so shout out an answer. Anyone? Go ahead, sir. Okay, that's a good answer. So financial reporting is external reporting, right? So reporting that is meant for external agencies, banks, ratings agencies, Board of Trustees, Board of Governors. It requires a fidelity, a truthfulness to what's called GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. By law, we have to do what those accounting principles say. If we don't, I lose my job, Gonzalo loses his job, and Paul loses his CPA license. So there's no room for fudging on that. That's financial reporting. Manager and financial reporting is Gonzalo's responsibility. Managerial reporting is internal reporting, unit reporting, and Michelle has responsibility for that. So the fiscal profile is essentially managerial reporting. The audited financial statements are financial reporting. And then the third component on there is the state budget. All state budget information, which is translated into how money is transferred to each different division in the university. Just last week, based on the conversation that's going on campus, I made the recommendation to the chancellor that we will now put our external rating agencies reports on that website. So has anyone heard of Moody's, Standard & Poor's, Fitch? Standard & Poor's and Fitch give us a rating periodically. It's another report card in addition to the state auditor. And everyone's heard of a AAA bond? Looking around the room. Has everybody heard of a junk bond? All right, others have heard that. You get rated on a scale in between AAA and junk, which is CCC or D. UNCG is right in the middle. I always get Moody's and Standard & Poor's confused because they have different rating scales. They're AAA, AA, AA plus. We're right in the middle of the APAC, which is a good place to be. Here's the simplicity of higher education funding, and it's all predicated on you. Number of students times tuition, number of students times fees, number of students times meal plan price, number of students times the room rate, number of students times the parking rate. And most importantly, the state subsidy is also based on student credit hour production. So the state appropriation that we get is also based on the number of students that we have, which is why enrollment is so key. This might be an eye chart, but what do you think that blue slice of the pie is? This is a graphic depiction of how UNCG spends its money. And this percentage has remained very close to the same for the last half a dozen years. The blue slice of the pie is academic affairs. So we spend about 71.2% of our budget on academic affairs, meaning the provost, remember how important I told you she was early on? She has responsibility for 72% of the money that we spend at UNCG. How do you help? You're doing it tonight. You're student leaders, right? The provost and I were remarking, I was really impressed when I came here last year. The way you run your meetings, the way you have the little cheat sheet on the back, you are preparing for citizenship. This is a wonderful thing to watch. I remarked to the provost tonight while we were waiting. Someone said they were a little nervous about running the meeting tonight. You shouldn't be. This is an example of what great students do. You guys are more functional than the United States Congress. The way you run your meetings is an exemplar, not only for your fellow students here at UNCG, but for all constituent groups at UNCG. So kudos to you. Become financially literate. That's what you're doing tonight. You invited me, I brought my team along because I know how it's important and we want to be truthful with the community. We want to counter disinformation that's going around campus. Again, this is targeted towards employees. Embrace diverse duties within your department rather than a one-size-fits-all workload. Some teachers will have higher teaching, some will have higher research. Decide as a faculty what has less return on your time investment and stop doing some things. Prioritize your time and energy. We're going through a process called academic performance review, which the provost is leading. And essentially, these are the things that we're going through. Integrate best practices in your classroom for retention. Engage in Starfish to provide data centrally on student behavior. It's important that we identify those that are having challenges early on in the semester, right? Because you can recover if you're having a challenge early in the semester. It's really hard to recover if it's final exam time and the final exam is worth 50% and you got a C and it's a really high stakes exam, right? And it's worth 50%. So engage early. Go on to the next page. This is commentary from the graduate education program that I visited. Resource allocation is a serious business. It's not frivolous. We have to work with facts and feelings. You have to be cognizant of feelings. But again, this is a serious business, $460 million a year. People's livelihoods depend on this. We have to run it as a business. Again, I'll throw this term out for the business school students. There's no extra credit, there's no test. What does the term fiduciary mean? Anyone? Give it a shot. It's excellent. It is the duty of the leaders by law. The chancellor and the provost and I are fiduciaries of the university. We have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and your dollars to make sure that you get a good education, right? That's what fiduciary means. So we're here tonight as fiduciaries. Emotion and hyperbole are part of higher education budget. That's what's going on, right? There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of hyperbole, exaggeration about what's going on. Last week, a list was circulated about programs that were going to close. That list consisted of, what was the number, Debbie? 48 programs? It's ridiculous. We're not going to shut down nursing or business, but that was on the list. The people who generated that list, that was meant to misinform and to exaggerate, hyperbole, get emotion spun up. What does a university have to do with their resources? Actually, it's not just a university, it's any organization. You have three choices, right? You grow, you plateau, or you contract. So what does UNCG have to do in this environment? On the next slide, we'll get into some specifics. But 5 years ago, we had 20,160 students. Today, we have 17,700 and, Andrew, help me with the last two digits? 737. That's a 12% decrease. It would be irresponsible on our part if the university leadership did not look at the university and say, are we spending our money appropriately? And that's what academic program review is. And that's what the administrative task force is looking at. Are we spending our money in an appropriate fashion as fiduciaries? I'm going to skip these reflection questions and go to the next presentation after I go through this. But this is higher education budgeting, shared governance. So the chancellor's job is an enormously complicated one. He has an enormous amount of constituent groups that he has to deal with. The Board of Governors and state government. The Board of Governors are appointed by the General Assembly in North Carolina. And Frank has to engage with them to get additional state appropriation. And he has been very successful over the last 3 or 4 years. Then we have our local Board of Trustees. So at the state level, there's a Board of Governors which oversees all 18 schools in the UNC system. Then we have a local Board of Trustees that has the responsibility to oversee just UNCG. Then there's the Chancellor, the Provost, the CFO, the Chancellor's Council, Faculty Senate, faculty, Staff Senate and the staff, alumni, community, and most importantly, who? You, students. That's what we're here for. That's why we spend 72% of our money on the student enterprise, the academic enterprise. Resources are finite, right? We're at 460 million, and our expenses are remaining flat, but our revenue is going down. That's why we have to change. What happens in your personal life if your expenses exceed your available resources? What do you have to do? What's that? Run up the credit cards. That's not a good answer. And hopefully you're not in the business school. But that's a great answer. Right? In the sense that that's what people that are advocating for the status quo here at UNCG want us to do. They want us to spend money that we don't have. So what are the consequences in your personal life if you spend money that you don't have? Come on, interactive again, no grades. Huh? Interest rates on that credit card debt. What else? Your credit score goes in the tank. What else? You can't get exactly, your credit is damaged. What about this? You miss too many payments in a row on your car, what happens? They come take it, right? So there's consequences to financial irresponsibility, whether it's on the individual level or if it's on the organizational level. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So I'm going to go now to the chancellor's presentation that he sent out today. And these are the exact slides that the chancellor presented last week at the Faculty Senate. Last Thursday, Debbie, we did it. So the chancellor met with the Faculty Senate, so the faculty body that's just like you. Are we on tape? We are? Okay. So I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But again, I'm going to say you guys are an exemplar for how meetings should be run. All right, so here are the facts of our enrollment. You can see that high watermark in 2019 was 20,196. And this matrix only goes to 2022 because we were comparing it and contrasting it to some information that was presented to us. But going out to 2023 is the number that I asked Andrew for help with, right? We're down to 17,700 and Andrew? Okay. Good. All right. Well, anyways, that's a 12% decrease, right? And you can see on the employee side, in 2017, we had 2,866 employees and 2,843 employees in 2022. That's less than a 1% decrease. You don't have to be a finance major to understand that that math doesn't work, right? So that's the imperative for change. Let me go down here. Head count and credit hour trends. So you can see, here's the number, 17,743. Total head count in fall of 2023. And the projection for total head count is marginally down for the next 2 years. And then in 2026, there's something that's happening that's a demographic change across the United States. Has anyone heard of the, what's it called, the enrollment cliff? Anybody heard of the enrollment cliff? The last time we had a great recession was in 2008. Add 18 to 8, and what do you get? 26. Good. In 2008, the last time we had a recession, and some of you were infants at the time, what happens when we have a major recession? People stop having kids. They lose confidence in the economy. They stop having kids. So starting in 2026, some demographers predict that nationally there'll be 3 million fewer high school graduates than there are today. which means it's unlikely that enrollment will go up, except in one segment of the higher education industry, which we aren't in, regional publics. So all regional publics will be faced with this enrollment cliff. The only part of the higher education industry that is projected to see an increase are schools that are on the front page of the newspaper a lot. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, the University of Chicago. They'll be fine. Everybody else is challenged. And then this graph tells the story. So you are taught to think critically while you're here at UNCG, right? Critical analysis, challenge assumptions. What does this graph tell you? If you were a leader of an if you're the leaders of the SGA, and I don't know if this is how it happens, but if Jordan or Mason come to you with your budget and your budget looks like this, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep the status quo going? You're going to have a serious conversation about what has to change, right? This is the university-wide challenge that we're facing. This just came out late this afternoon, so this is on the university website. And then this information is taken directly from the UNC system office, their Board of Governors meeting last week. Again, this is public domain information, and you can see the hyperlink down on the bottom. So if you click on that hyperlink, it will take you to the finance and budget meeting with all of the information, public domain information. What this tells you, look in the enrollment change column. You see all the parentheses? In managerial reporting in Excel, parentheses means negative. So go down to UNCG. That's 8.3 million in enrollment decline on our state appropriation. Based on performance, we're measured on six performance metrics. We got 2.3 million of that back. And then based on special accommodation that the chancellor got by lobbying over in Raleigh, they gave us an additional 2.3 million as a one-time stopgap, meaning that our cut wasn't 8.3 million, it was 3.5 million. But primarily because of the influence that the chancellor has over in Raleigh. If it weren't for that, add an additional 2.3 million to that cut and we're closer to 6 million. And you can see across the system, the only ones that don't have parentheses are Elizabeth City, NC State, Chapel Hill, and Wilmington and School of the Arts have very small positives. So when anyone tells you that we're not challenged financially, point them critically to the raw data. You're probably told in your classes to always look for primary sources, right? Don't listen to people's opinion. Go to primary sources and critically do the analysis yourself. That's what we're doing here tonight. This is just an example of, many people probably haven't heard this term yet, probably not even the folks in the business school, but there's a term called colors of money. And in state government, colors of money matter. So in UNCG, there's two broad colors of money. One is state funds, and the other is referred to as trust funds. So in this case, we're talking about trust funds. We're talking about state funds. And our performance weighted change is 3.5 million. And then the three columns that add money back. So $528,000 for completion assistance program, which is something the provost will have responsibility for. $1 million will go to the athletic department because the General Assembly and the Board of Governors understand that the way we fund athletics for the non-Power 5 schools in North Carolina is not sustainable, just with a student fee, you all paying a fee. So they acknowledge that, and they're changing the way we're funded to a partial extent. They're giving us $1 million a year. We can only use that for athletics. We can't use that for anything else. So that is a discrete color of money. And then the last thing is nursing faculty adjustments, which is just shy of $850,000. We can only use that money to adjust nursing salaries. Why? Because there's a supply and demand issue. There's not enough nursing faculty to go around. And when you have a shortage in supply, what does that mean for salaries? It means it goes up. If you have an overabundance of something, what does that mean for salaries? Salaries go down. It's fundamental economic theory. This one's pretty complicated, and this slide was built to refute a presentation. A faculty member walked in tonight and spoke with one of your senators and wanted the senator to be aware of a different side of the story that I'm telling tonight. It's a national group called AAUP, the American Association of University Professors, and they hired someone to give a presentation 3 weeks or a month ago. And the chancellor has framed this presentation, I think, in a wonderful way. He's framed it as a question. Did this hired accountant, was his intent was he misunderstanding our financial data, or was he trying to misrepresent the financial data? And why we're presenting the data tonight is for you to critically analyze it yourself and see where the university administration, the fiduciaries, come down on the issue. This last slide that I'll talk to is again taken from the Board of Governors, and this shows a 5-year period of state appropriation in our expenses. And you can see that the trend lines don't work, right? We have a 10.7% increase in state appropriation and a 4.8% increase in total expenditures, and an 11.3% decrease in tuition revenue. So with that, I'll stop here and open it up for any questions. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right, well, what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to defer to the provost because she is in charge of academic program review. And she will give you a much better answer than I could have.
Good evening, everyone. That's a great question. So I think what you're referring to is every academic program they were scored on a rubric that the faculty developed, and then there's a composite score. And so many of the misconceptions swirling about is because everybody's focused on that composite score. If I get a score of this means that my program's at risk. And what we've tried to help people understand is that's really the beginning of an inquiry. That's a sign that we need to ask good questions. So in the case of JSNN, the question is, it is a graduate-only program, right? There's a set of metrics only for graduate-only programs, and there is also a set of data around research and research expenditures. So JSNN is going to be looked at comprehensively like any other academic program. We do recognize that faculty bring in a lot of grant money because it's a graduate-only program. The faculty there are very research active. The graduate students are very research active as well. So again, that score doesn't mean, oh my gosh, you should panic. It simply means the dean needs to explore, what does this mean for JSNN? Are there ways that we can increase grant activity? Are there ways we can further support graduate students? The fact that they're a graduate-only program means that they have less levers than other programs, right? They don't have an undergraduate program, which our new funding model enhances more state support for. But JSNN is a very important school for this university. It's a joint program with NCA&T. And so I'm not too concerned about that composite score because we recognize the value JSNN brings. And that's sort of that overall perspective that we expect all the deans to take about every one of their programs. But to answer your question, yes, we do consider the research components in the whole evaluation of all academic programs. Yeah, thanks for the question. Okay.
You want to go, you go first and then I'll add on.
Yeah, again, really good question. So I want to be really clear, graduate education is really important to UNCG. We know that there are many industries and employers out there who are requiring a master's or a PhD. Graduate education is important in serving a labor force need. And it's also important in terms of creating more knowledge. You're probably engaged in research with your faculty. So graduate education is aligned with our mission. It's important to us. And for the kind of institution we have a lot of graduate programs. This is my third year. Last time I was here, I said I'm a junior technically, right? Because it's my third year. And when I first started, one of my concerns was that our stipends for graduate students are not competitive. The problem with how we fund graduate education is that the state appropriation has lowered what we get for graduate education. So that's constrained us even further, which is another reason why I'm a real advocate for reviewing all academic programs. If we have the courage to do this right and make difficult decisions, we will have more resources to reallocate to programs of strength where we can support student stipends at a more reasonable competitive rate. That's been a priority of Dean Greg Bell in the graduate school. I know your graduate directors want that as well, but it's all tied to the resources that come in, and we've got to use it for lots of costs. And those resources, the graduate stipends, are part of school and college budgets. And those budgets haven't increased in the 3 years I've been here. In fact, they've decreased because of enrollment decline, because our revenue has declined. And that's why we haven't been able to increase stipends. It's not because we don't value you or we think it's important. We would like to increase those stipends. I think it's very important to remain competitive, and it's the right ethical thing to do. Right now, I don't see any capacity to do that in terms of the stipends.
So the provost answered the micro part of your question, and I'll go to the macro part. The General Assembly, and through the General Assembly, the Board of Governors has made a policy decision, and that is operationalized in the new funding model. And what that policy is that they have decided that the state of North Carolina will invest in undergraduate in-state education. And that for graduate programs in non-STEM fields have to do what's called floating on their own bottom, meaning that there has to be market rates. So in the past, what has happened is regional publics like UNCG have invested in graduate education, and not necessarily in a profitable way. They had budgets that weren't sustainable. So the policy change at the system level has forced our hand to make certain changes, so that we are responding to a policy change. That is not a decision that the provost made or the chancellor made or that I made. We are responding to that government-wide policy change. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So as we go through the portfolio review, deans will make recommendations to me sometime in December. We'll have lots of discussions with faculty. I'll make recommendations to the chancellor, who will make final decisions in February. I want to be very clear. Any changes that we make, it could be we're going to consolidate programs, we might invest in programs, and there may be some programs that we're going to discontinue. But that will take years, because every student currently at UNCG who continues to make good academic progress, we are committed for you to finish your degree. So you will not be impacted by that. Students who are now applying to UNCG and saying, I'm interested in coming to UNCG. In February, one of the reasons why we need to make decisions in February, we need to let students, when they intend to declare their major, that if you want to come here and study basket weaving, and we've decided we're going to discontinue basket weaving, we want to be able to tell those incoming students, we're no longer going to be able to offer basket weaving, but we have sewing. I don't know, I'm trying to think of majors they don't really have here, so nobody gets freaked out. So the current students, graduate and undergraduate, will not be impacted. Incoming students may have to make some choices should we decide on a number of programs that will no longer offer for incoming students. But we are committed ethically and by our accrediting body to ensure every student currently completes their degree as long as you make good academic progress. If you fail out and then want to come back, we don't have to make that commitment, but you know that we want you to finish your degree here. We do everything we can to try to retain you and help you achieve your academic goals. It's a great question, because I think that's part of the fear that people are spreading, that you're going to be impacted. And remember, this is really to ensure that UNCG has a strong immediate future, but also a strong future for students to come. And to address things like our graduate student here was talking about, we need to provide better stipends for our graduate students.
Any more questions?
You can go first.
Since enrollment is such a big part of the whole puzzle, what are we doing differently to increase enrollment or retain?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll speak very briefly, but Vice Chancellor Tina McIntyre is our, she manages all of enrollment, and she's really brought what she calls the science of enrollment management to this university. I think Tina's been here, what, 4 years? Previous to Tina coming, we had not been engaged in some regular good practices that most higher ed institutions were doing. For example, we weren't engaging with high school counselors. Like, that's kind of a no-brainer, folks. So she's implemented a number of things, including bringing high school counselors to campus, more engaged outreach to our transfer community college partners, more marketing, directed marketing for students. So we've done a lot in terms of enrollment management, also aligning, providing financial aid, helping students understand they're Pell eligible and the financial aid they have available, loans, etc. On the other side, Regina McCoy is our Associate Vice Provost for Student Success and Retention. And there are a number of things that we've done to encourage retention. The number one thing that I'm really proud of, I briefly think I mentioned it last time, we're focused on a quality enhancement plan that's focused on students' well-being, the 8 dimensions of health, including their mental well-being. One of the things that we know that students really are challenged by just the stress of life, as well as staff and faculty. And so we're doing a lot of work in that area to support students' well-being. We've also done a lot of training for our faculty. We now help faculty with Andrew Hamilton's work understand when, not when students are at risk, but when the classes are at risk. In other words, when we have classes with high grades of DFW, what that tells me is there's something that we can do in the class, the pedagogy, the curriculum, the content, to change it so that more students can be successful. And so Dr. Hamilton, working with some folks in our teaching center, have hosted a number of workshops directed at faculty to help think about how could we teach differently, how could we teach the curriculum differently so more students can be successful without reducing content, expectations, and quality. There's a number of other things I could talk about. One example is you might know Starfish. I hope you do. We've asked every faculty member, we've asked advisors, we've asked resident life folks to use Starfish, because that's the way we can communicate with one another. If they see something positive in a student, they can raise a flag and say, good job, kudos. And you'll get an email from your faculty that says, did a really good job today in your oral presentation. But faculty and staff can also raise flags when they notice something concerning. The student hasn't been in my class for 2 weeks. And if we get a number of flags, that triggers some action on the part of advisors or our housing resident life folks to reach out to those students to check in. How are you doing? So there's a number of things that we're doing, and I'm very proud of the work that the staff has done. We've seen an increase in retention from fall to fall as a result of all the actions across campus to try to ensure that you have support to complete your academic studies. But it takes a village, and life's challenging, right? And school's hard. And so we've been very focused and very concentrated, not just on recruiting, but really retaining the students we have and ensuring that you have the support you need to be successful. I would encourage, if you are interested, to invite Vice Chancellor Tina McIntyre. She can share with you all the things that she's doing, and Associate Vice Provost Regina McCoy to talk about the retention efforts. They can talk endlessly about the things they're doing, but that's sort of a nutshell.
Like been more on the because it's like generally you at sports school, I know a lot of high school students. Well, not even like with the big athletic programs, and then of course my own high school, I told you that football team, but if I would have known that they had a football team, that could have been like the first school that so,
Good point. Good point. Excellent point. I'll take that back to Tina. Yeah, thank you.
I think the biggest challenge is like student leaders is maybe understanding how we can inform throughout this process. So how can we, as like an organization, keep everyone informed like throughout the program review? Because I think a lot of people's misconception kind of falls with not knowing.
Yeah.
So how do you guys plan to keep students informed throughout this process, and also how can we as an organization continue to advocate that?
Dr. Hamilton, do you want to come speak to that? Dr. Hamilton is the Dean of Students. Many of you know him. He is going to be sending a message tomorrow to students, but we would also seek your advice on how we can communicate more effectively to students. But I'll hand this over to Dr. Hamilton.
Thanks, y'all. This is the most fun I had today. A lot of times I spend my day sitting in a little room, sending email. You know, send them to you. So you're going to get an email from me tomorrow that gives the basics of what an academic portfolio review is. So what is this thing we're engaged in? And it has some links so you can look at material online. You'll have access, you all have access to most of the material. So here's what I recommend. Take a look at that stuff. If you have questions, send me an email, ugdean@uncg.edu. But if you want to do a workshop on what a portfolio review is, how one is conducted, ours is complicated and nuanced and multifaceted because our faculty and our deans and our provost and our chancellor and our folks in finance and administration need really good information about how our program, what programs we have, the inventory, where our areas of strength lie, where we might have areas where we need to do better work, and where we have significant weaknesses. If you just look at the rubric, there's a great question from our colleague from JSNN. If you just look at the rubric, you might conclude, you might make some inferences that are not accurate about the strength or quality of those programs, because there are all kinds of considerations that are not captured. So for instance, nursing is on that list because nursing's 4-year graduation rate is 0. And the reason is nursing, we measure that as freshmen all the way through to the end of the graduation period in 4 years. They don't have any first-year students in nursing because you don't get admitted in nursing. So if you just read the rubric, you might think, oh, we don't have a good nursing program, but you would be wrong. We have a great nursing program. And the dean will fight you if you say otherwise. So what I recommend we do is we talk about how we're going to do this. So we've got a couple of months of hard work still going on by the faculty and committees in the colleges and schools before they make their recommendations to the provost. So we won't know what the results of the analysis are, but I can help you understand how the analysis is being conducted. We do trainings with faculty. I can do a very similar one for you all, show you how we roll the scores, show you how everything is weighted and calculated. It's a ton of fun. Yeah, it's a ton. It's even more fun than Bob's presentation. More numbers. Yeah, but I'm happy to help keep you informed as best as possible, either in this forum or another one. Thanks.
Can I just add one more thing? I think it's really important that when you get asked questions, you just have a dialogue, right? Because there is some misrepresentation and misinformation going out there. And this is exactly what higher education and college is all about. Exploring, questioning. I love that students are concerned. I love that there was a protest. You know why? Because that's democracy, folks. It means students are engaged. What I'd like to see is more critical inquiry, what you're doing here today as leaders, right? So when somebody says, join the protest, go, tell me about the protest. Tell me about your concerns. Have you gone to this website? Have you looked at the data that the chancellor has provided? Let's talk about some of the facts. And I also think that, we're humans. What are your fears, right? Is it going to be, are you going to be impacted by it? What are you concerned about? Who could we talk to? Who should we bring in? Dr. Hamilton, Vice Chancellor Shea, Debbie, whoever it is. I mean, that's what you should be doing. Just engaging with your peers and having those great conversations. Should this come up within your faculty? If there's an appropriate time to have a conversation, if it's part of the class or somebody brings it up, you have some knowledge now that you can share and some tools that you can use to continue the inquiry and the conversation, right? So we're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to give you tools to do some critical thinking on your end. Dr. Akins, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to say, I think going off of what you said, I think your responsibility is always using your voice with other leaders. So many of you are engaged with other student organizations. And so there's an opportunity within your organization to sponsor a forum or to just ask the questions of the students that you are either representing here, in your position, or in your organization, and say, how do you, have you watched the Hamilton video? Did you read the chancellor's message last week? Are you going to go to this forum that's going to happen? And providing some of the information that you think, like from the store, whether you agree with everything or not, you have access to that information most closely as deeply as you do. So I think what we would hope you could do as representatives is really have some of those conversations.
Yeah, and I just jump in. I said this a little bit early on, but what you guys are doing right now, this is a practicum in citizenship and civics. Asking questions of people that are accountable, asking for meetings like Jordan and Mason do, becoming informed. You guys here today, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you'll be on the school committee. You'll be on the county commissioners. You might run for elected office because you're doing this here today. You'll get hooked on being accountable and responsibility for leadership. So I applaud you for that.
And I want to give you a kudos to like doing it with civility and respect, right? Asking good questions. I think, given what's happening in the world today, it's so refreshing to be here. It really is. So thanks for asking the questions and for inviting us. Any other questions? Yeah.
I wonder, but they don't turn.
That's a great question, and I'll have to plead ignorance because I don't know anything about how they're financed. Gonzalo or Michelle, do you know anything about NCSSM? How they're funded? Yeah, it's state appropriation. But I don't know the specifics. It's a public magnet school in North Carolina. They now have two. So there's one, is it in Durham or Raleigh? In Durham, and now they have one out in the western part of the state. Yeah. And it's a magnet school where kids that graduate, they want to keep them in North Carolina. Mason?
I wanted to we get away with that, but how much money would we truthfully?
Great question. So the bottom line is that goes to colors of money conversation that we had earlier. So if we did away with athletics, which no one is advocating for, that money could not be used for anything else because the majority of athletics is funded through the fee that you pay, the athletics funding fee. And then there's philanthropy, giving. There's some NCAA contribution. There's a small contribution from ticket sales and concessions. And then there's, to that report that you talked about, the author of that report alleged that we support athletics to the tune of $4.5 million in state funds. That's not true. What that was an in-kind contribution of labor. So my team has a certain amount of labor that has to support athletics. HR has a certain amount of labor. The police department has a certain amount of labor. So there's a calculation and allocation that totaled up to about 2.5 million. And then there was about another 2 million per funding and some other small amounts that fund the athletic department. So the bottom line is, if we did away with athletics, none of that money could be transferred to any other use in the university.
Can I also add, I think I heard a little nuance to your question, what would we lose? So our student athletes, some of them also pay tuition and fees, right? So we would lose that. I wonder how many students would not choose to come to UNCG if we didn't have fun athletics that they can engage in. That's part of the student life experience, right? Student athletes also bring significant intellectual and diverse contributions to our campus. They also help us with our GPA. These are scholars first. So I think we'd lose a lot if we said we're not going to fund support athletics anymore through student fees, philanthropy. I think it'd be a real loss for the university. And again, there's no talk about doing that. So I just want to be clear, okay?
Where do we fall at in from the North Carolina state line in the hours? Like on a scale? Like
Okay, yeah, I can address that. So there's certain pay scales in the state of North Carolina. And is it 3 or 4 tiers? 3 tiers. So the top tier is Chapel Hill and NC State. And then the second tier is us and schools that have similar enrollments to us. And then the third tier is the smallest schools. So the pay structure is set up by the budget size and the amount of responsibility that people have. So for instance, the guy that I replaced here at UNCG is now the CFO at NC State. He makes significantly more than I do, which is why he left UNCG to go to NC State, right? That's what people want to do over the course of their career. So it is a standardized pay scale across the system. Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's a really good question. And that is a political decision that was made at the General Assembly and the Board of Governors level. And my understanding, I've only been here for 3.5 years, and I might yield my time to Paul Forte, who's been in the system longer, and Michelle Laudenbacher. But that was a political decision that has been a decade in the making. There were people advocating for model change for a long time. And then what happened is here in North Carolina, you have a very powerful legislature, right, which is controlled by the Republicans. And you have an executive branch that's controlled by a Democratic government. And there's a power struggle between the executive and the legislative. And there was critical mass in the makeup of the legislature, which allowed that model to go through. It is unlikely with the current makeup of the legislature that there will be any change. I'm seeing Michelle nodding. Would any of you like to add to that?
Yeah,
Which I'll take the opportunity here, right, to do a public service announcement. Your student senators, we talked about civics earlier, vote in elections. Elections matter. And we're not telling you who to vote for, but be informed about what people's policy positions are when they ask for your vote.
Well, and the only thing I would say too is that, we've got to have a nuanced understanding of the state. The state of North Carolina actually supports higher education significantly compared to other states. Like we are in the top, what, Bob, 10?
Top 8. this year.
Top 8 states in terms of public support through the General Assembly for higher education. So, a lot of, I think faculty are also like frustrated, right? I'm not real happy with the funding formula, but at the same time, I'm grateful that the state provides so much appropriation that keeps your tuition low and allows us to serve and support really excellent students who are capable of doing amazing things. So it's a very difficult sort of way to navigate the political terrain because they do support higher education more so than most states in the nation.
And that on one of my slides, that when I forwarded to you, you can click on it. It was SHEEO, SHEEO, which stands for State Higher Education Executive Organization, which studies funding of higher education by state. And you can go in there and see exactly what the provost was talking about, how North Carolina has funded education in the past and currently. Sir? Well, that's a very interesting challenge, right? So it's been 8 years in North Carolina since tuition has increased. And the fixed tuition program is a component of that, right? So when you start as a freshman, you're going to have the same tuition your senior year that you had in your freshman year. Now, that's really not a big deal in the last 8 years, right? Because we haven't raised tuition on anybody. And at the last Board of Governors meeting, the president of the system, Peter Hans, stated for the record that they have no intention of raising tuition for the next 2 years. So that would be a full decade of no tuition increases, which is being faithful to the North Carolina Constitution, which says something like this, I'm paraphrasing. Public higher education in the state of North Carolina should be provided at as free a cost as practical. Now, as aspiring politicians and public servants, there's a lot of nuance in that statement, right? What does as free as practical mean, right? When the Constitution was written, it meant one thing. What does it mean today? But as the CFO of a $460 million organization, it's a challenge to be able to run an organization and not be able to raise prices. For instance, the tuition and fee committee just met, and there is a proposal that will go to the chancellor that then has to go to our board of trustees and then to the board of governors, where there will be no increase on undergraduates, right? And there will undergraduates in state, and there will be an increase to graduate students, right? Going back to your earlier question about the policy change, out of state graduate students. Thanks, Paul. And the reason for that is there was a policy prescription to do that. If we didn't do it, we put ourselves at risk politically by getting additional money from the state when they said you did nothing to help yourself. So it's a very complex game, and we have a full-time employee, Andrew Cagle, who is over in Raleigh with the legislature all the time, advocating for UNCG at the legislature.
Yeah, we're also mixed about this because we want to keep the cost of college as affordable as possible to our student body. Like Bob said, we're both first generation, right? So we depended on Pell and working hard. And
We're
I
so
know-
old, it wasn't called Pell when we
I know,
got
I
it.
know, but I know many of you are in the same circumstance. So we want to keep the cost of education as low as possible. But the reality is that costs are increasing in higher education, right? So one of the things that we're really doing is trying to focus on fundraising for scholarships, focus on fundraising for paid internships for students, because that's how we can help keep the costs low. And that means alumni who have the capacity and the goal and the kindness to want to give back to their alma mater. We are getting a lot of funds from them to support our students. And that's the number one priority in our campaign, is to get more scholarships for our deserving students. Because we do want to keep the costs low. So it's difficult to run a business like this with flat tuition. All right, folks, I need to go eat. I don't know about you, but I'm going to have to sneak out. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Invite us back whenever you need us.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you to Bob Shea and all of his other colleagues for coming up today. For now, we have Senator committee breakouts. I'm gonna give y'all 40 minutes,
Well,
but before,
as
yeah,
long as y'all need.
yeah,
But
yeah, who?
y'all have to. do-
Okay, I'm gonna give y'all a little speech. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna give it to y'all. I know y'all have been through a lot of change of powers within the last couple of months. I understand that. But this has been the slowest SGA session I have ever been in, and I've only been in 3. I've seen SGA flourish, and this right here is not it. We passed one piece of legislation, and you wanna know what that legislation piece was? Mason's allocations for student groups. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, that's quite embarrassing. And right now, it's only exec cabinet that's starting events. And really and truthfully, they don't have to throw events. Y'all throw events. I was a part of the 99th session as the first ever PR team And I was more involved than some of y'all have been, and y'all are senators. SGA Senate meetings used to be longer than this, and they used to be arguing and bickering. At least we're not arguing and bickering, we're learning about new information. But this is embarrassing, very embarrassing. So like, I get y'all don't want to do it, but some people are passionate about SGA, and I'm one of those people. Because really and truthfully, I don't do this to put it on my resume. I do it because I like to advocate for students and be a voice for somebody. So all of y'all should be like that. Fernando just came in from clinical and is still here. He might have been 40 minutes late, but he still came and he still showed up. I'm a nursing student who is also in 3 other organizations who still makes it work. So I know y'all can, and I know y'all might not like doing it, but it's gotta get done, because this right here is not gonna cut it. And I know some of y'all have not been taught about how to do it, but that's why you ask questions. That's why exec cabinet there, that's why I've always been here. I've always said, if y'all ever had any questions, come ask me, because I'll help you. I was a part of the PR team, then I worked my way up to an at-large senator, current concerns committee chair, won 3 awards, won by the whole school. Then I was on exec cabinet, and now I'm the student government vice president. Your voice matters. So we're not gonna keep doing this. Like, I need something from y'all. My committee chairs, I need y'all to put some motivation into these senators, because right now this ain't gonna cut it. Because I'm gonna let you know, I will take you off and I'll put somebody else in your place, because I know there's more students out here who wanna be in SGA. Be a voice. Your voice matters, y'all. Like, advocate, stand up. Like, plan impactful, effective events. It doesn't matter if it's a table. That can be just as impacting as a whole event in here. Like, I know y'all are creative. I know y'all can think out the box. I work with some of y'all in other organizations, so I know how y'all are. I know your work, but come on, I gotta get something. So I'm gonna show the new committee sheet. If you don't see your name up there, let me know so I can put you in a committee. But I'm gonna give you 40 minutes for right now. If you need more than that, then let me know. And if you feel like you wanna meet outside of SGA, y'all can, because this isn't how SGA Senate, like the committees that worked out. Last year, we had to make a whole new meeting. Y'all had to figure that out on your own schedule. And some of y'all couldn't come, so we made it during SGA Senate meetings. So I'm gonna show the new sheet. I'm gonna give y'all 40 minutes for right now, but can someone yield their time, please?
So I'm gonna show you guys the committee meetings, and I know a lot of y'all have been saying that y'all don't know how to plan an event. So I wrote a guide. It's in the drive, but I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna show it as well after y'all see your committees. I know that a lot of y'all are saying that y'all don't know how to do stuff, but I feel like there is a lot of resources in the drive as well that show step by step on how to do stuff. And also you guys can ask. It's never like, we're never gonna say no to ask a question. There's always somebody out there. Like everybody back there, they plan an event and y'all been seeing them plan events, but also you guys got voted into this. So y'all make change. Okay, so. I'm gonna show the committee first. Y'all can get into your committees. Current concerns, SJADI, legislative, election, finance. All the chairs, can you please raise your hand? Okay, and y'all can meet around them. Thank y'all. Yes, Kaylin? Can someone yield their time to Kaylin? Yes, so if you go on the shared drive, this Google Drive is a lifesaver, y'all. Y'all can use it for anything. You can either search it up this way, but it is in the drive. You can type up your position, who was in your position previously, and they'll be on here.
I don't know.
Oh, I noticed my last name was spelled wrong in the committee thing. I think it's missing an F.
Okay, I'll fix it.
But that's fine, yeah. But, I usually go to Lana's outfitted. So
Yeah, yeah.
I need to like.
Just
I
look
wanna be able
at
to be, okay.
Just look like Joyce, you know how much you can be here. Who? No, but I'll meet with y'all. Or Jaisha will. Hold on. What committee do you want to do? All right. Okay, I was like, yeah, and then what y'all say? WILL. RD. Like that. That's what Yes.
For my own.
So I'm on the student and current concerns in the group meeting, but I'm my name's on there. Would you have my name on?
Yeah.
HOA. HO.
Oh, sorry,
No,
sorry.
no, you're good. No worries.
Would you rather be on SJDI? Because there's a lot of people on SJDI. Well, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, y'all gonna meet with me. Yeah. Are you? Okay. Thank you. And then, y'all.
So I'm really here to make a change, you know, it's like people who look at me and say, okay, so you've been in straight, what are you doing now? I don't want to be in a position where it's like, I don't even know what I'm doing else. So I definitely want to touch base with that. But as far as the breakouts and concerns, like, I really do want to be able to understand what we're doing. So there's like, I know, is it usually, I'm in, yes, I am. Okay. So I could just tap in with them or anything, but would it be okay if I like go after this to head to there? Because they started at 7 too, so I just want to pop back in. So.
Okay. Talk to Grace, that's your committee chair. Taylor is your co-chair. But y'all were just basically talking about what events y'all want to tackle as a committee.
Right.
And then just tap in with them, just say, like, I gotta go.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, I
put your
definitely want to tap in.
Yeah, put your little input in, be like, y'all gotta go.
Okay.
And then tell her to email you what they talked about.
Okay, yeah, too, so I can have it for references. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, and then we can, I can reach out to you on Friday, whatever time works for you, and then we can go from there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Derek's not here, but.
Can you just sit with them and then show them the elections timeline from, it's in the drive?
We need to figure out why I can't go through this.
Yes.
My laptop pulled up on Spark Connect how it looks for mine.
Okay, we're gonna tell Meredith, but then first we were talking. Okay.
Since you have access to it. Because a lot of people probably not sure. I miss you. Like, I feel that bad. Do you want, how or coverage? Are we getting first? Somebody was like, okay. Next, give me 1 second. That would have been really bad.
Oh,
And I was like, yeah. But
how would you feel if I got my sorority? Or I can talk the whole.
because last time they didn't have the game, like they were kind of.
Sorry. I could give it to her. I will say that all of that research. If you want to, I would.
And what did you say? I know the second week of November we have a lot.
Okay, they line up good, because that's our, that was.
Exactly. Do you want it to order? Oh, we want to go with our food. We can get like, we get one. I'm trying to order all the water bottles at once so that we don't have to order nothing. We have a lot in our budget, but they keep taking money off the leg. Like, not getting the order. Like, the budget way it works is that when I order something, it takes out of leg instead of exactly back to the So, get a Coke. All of it, and me and Jason. All of it. Okay. Do you send out, or do you already order that time? I wear a BS and out separate ones for Polo. It's on Aaron, like, I'm sure. Okay, no, I was just saying, oh, because we did the thing. Yeah. They have Polo. They have everything. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So, can you, I would say all you have to go with 3 1. And then. Can I just tell them like I'll try to take my legislation. And then. Yes, they're all in that. So like if you look behind it, there's like a place that goes for the back was like the back was. But trying to make we're going to do this on Friday, because we have council.
I got a large.
Yeah, I'm not always like that. I want it this way, so like. Yeah. Well, if you just check with them. I'm gonna play a little. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna. Okay.
Like at one moment I was eating the pie. Like eat so much and
Yeah, you know. But honestly, they're probably just like, and like everything else, and then I can order something. No, make sure to do that. And then
You had a question?
yeah, they wanted me to grab olive about the spiking.
yes.
Tabling.
I can help with that.
Were there people already signed up to help?
Yes, tomorrow there is already people, but if you want to come, you can come.
Okay, because I know they were asking if y'all had people that was like,
Yeah.
if y'all need.
You want to go to the legislature? Many times.
Huh? Yes.
The legislature. Yes, well, no. The sweatshirts I'm getting are coming in like a few weeks. It only takes it's because it takes a long time to come. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I can tell them. Wait, look. All y'all. It's up there. But the way that you basically
Sponsored by, oh, yeah. It's sponsored by Michaela. It is authored by Awa, so she made it. And then I think we're gonna open it up to other sponsors.
And y'all are doing this tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow from 12 to 3. So, what do you mean?
I'm both driving home tonight.
Oh, why are you going?
I have to go see my grandmother.
Ah, gotcha. When are you gonna be back?
I'm gonna leave as soon as I can tomorrow. I told him I have to be back by Thursday, so it might be the half hour.
Wonderful.
I should be there.
Halloween thing.
I know.
Goodbye.
That's why I'm gonna miss it.
Do you want to see the things?
I do.
How are you? Doing good. You gonna get me Chick-fil-A? You too.
Okay. I know that a lot of y'all were thinking of writing legislation, so if you guys do want to see a legislation, a template, we wrote a bill for the past, like last week. So if you guys want to see, a legislation can be anything. So this is just to have drink tampering awareness. So if you want to see the guide on how to write legislation, you can take notes from this. Yes. Yes, if you go to the legislative committees like folder, it's on sent legislation. Hold on, I'll try to- So it's like under legislative branch, legislative committee, introduce legislation.
a group meeting, your whole committee. Out there, like, you have a group meeting, like, are you in a group with your team? Do y'all have a group meeting? She wasn't,
You still keeping the full 15 minutes?
Jessica, Marcel. Right there. What the fuck? What the hell, Sue?
Not too much now. Huh? I know. I was like 10. Yeah. I was for I know there are people who wait.
How many more minutes we got? I'm looking tired. I'm gonna get this over with. It doesn't take that long. I love, like, I can help you with it. If we have. We're all gonna be in the Q4 on Friday. I definitely think you should. It's usually by written by the week. So, but it'll be, that's fine. We're gonna do. Like.
No, we don't. I'm gonna give them a taste. What? 'Cause they don't believe it. Okay, y'all, we're gonna wrap it up. You go ahead and sit down. Finish up your conversations, so we can do exec council and then get out of here. Cause I'm tired and I got an exam tomorrow. So. Paso is former college. And I have not studied it. I haven't studied it, so. They left. Okay. I was president for it.
Okay, what I've been up to, so I had a meeting with Mamadou regarding an event, biking tabling tomorrow. If you want to volunteer, please let me know. Yeah, and then SR 10101, which is basically spiking awareness within UNCG. Board of Trustees breakout, so we have Board of Trustees on Halloween, homecoming, and then the bonfire. What's coming up? So we have exec council meeting this Friday, exec cabinet meeting as well this Friday. A collab with Alpha and Jordan to kind of get a business apparel drive going. Board of Trustees meeting with Dr. Hamilton and Provost Stores to try to get mental health days. Meeting with Tamia on a initiative, and then Director of Community Affairs interviews. If you're interested in being Director of Community Affairs, please let me know. I've already emailed those that shown interest, but if you haven't gotten an email and you do have interest, please email me. Okay, and then that's all.
Hello, everyone. There we go. So what I've been up to. So homecoming, Woo to Homecoming, had a good time. The SOS application just closed yesterday midnight, so if you have any friends, wish them luck in the applications. Today I taught in my FYE course as a PAL by myself. That was kind of fun and fresh. They looked at me. Anyways, the Tri Sigma Philanthropy Week is over. We won it by 1,000-point margin, Pi Cap. Woo! And then I was a panelist for the Gear Up program for high school students. I actually called them middle school students, and then they were like, no, but that wasn't my fault. That was actually the paper fault. And then before this meeting, I was in another meeting with a financial literacy meeting covering what to expect at the financial symposium happening in 2 weeks. What I have coming up is I have my first OSRR hearing happening tomorrow, fun and fresh event. Then we have our SGA and PICAP event tomorrow, anti-spiking. So if you can come out, please come out. Even if you can't participate in helping to support the actual event, you can also get AstroDogs. So like, come out and bring your friends. And then I have professional development for PAL tomorrow as well. And then I got Sueño Americano or Sueño Republicano, which is an event for the Poli-Sci and philosophy department that deals with Hispanic voting. So that's fun and fresh. And then I have Storm the Streets planning, which is happening in 3 weeks. So get ready for Storm the Streets. And then Halloween weekend, you already know. And then I'm also going to be in Bienvenido student panel in 2 weeks. So that's pretty exciting, but that's it.
My turn again. Anyways, what I've been up to, getting started with beefy stuff, as y'all can see, cleaning up my office, bonfire with Alway and Manny, homecoming, that was fun. sorority business / meetings, Black Student Union events, exams and quizzes. What's coming up? One-on-one with senators. So if y'all don't know, y'all will have a one-on-one meeting with me. It's a little bit overdue, but thankfully it's coming up soon. Picking a new sophomore senator, gotta fill in that spot. Exec cabinet and council meeting. Tomorrow, there's a health fair at Jackson Library. The seniors in the nursing school, they throw like a big event. They're gonna be giving out like sexual health stuff. Police dog Odin will be there. There's gonna be food. So yeah, come out. It's from 9 to 2 in front of Jackson Library. Fernando will be there. I'm also a nursing mobile health scholar, so I have a meeting after class from 12 to 2 about Narcan training for opioid overdoses. And then I have my advising meeting, and then nursing school continues because I have exam tomorrow and I haven't studied once. This is also my memes that I made. I had a before bonfire nap. It was lovely. And then Kaylin took that picture of me at the BSU event. So, I really don't know, but it was funny. Okay, Senator Forum, any senator can speak for 2 minutes pertaining to issue. Jay?
And bring out like.
Anybody else? Announcements, any member of SGA may speak up for 2 minutes at this time. Kaylin? I'm gonna get Hillary first, then Jordan and Paul. Alright, thank you for that, Hillary. Jordan? Thank you, Jordan. Oh, now Fox.
Folks, on November 19th, we are going to have what's called an unsanctioned tournament, prison tournament, at the Capitol Center. Doors will open at 10 a.m. Please come forward. Contact.
Oh, I have an announcement. Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated is having an event on Thursday at 7:22 in Bryan Building. It's called Song Association. If y'all wanna come, you can come. We're just gonna be singing songs. I invite all of them. That can be a big turnout.
This Saturday at 7:30 p.m. in auditorium, basically, School Music is going to be hosting this year's launch concert. Collage is a hours-long event for music, and this year because it's so good, tickets are all on sale. That's on the website. All of the proceeds raised go towards school. For students colleges, we're very happy about this event. Plus the music is going to be absolutely incredible. And not anything like it. If you have the time, please, really encourage it. It's really good cause and
Okay, Olive?
I just want to say that on the drive, if you go under legislative committee, if you want to see how to write legislation, there's a legislative template. Also, with the bill that Jalen said he's writing, if you want to help write it, you can be a sponsor on it as well. I know this was longer than y'all are used to, but also it was a very productive meeting overall. I think Aisha did a really great job. Congratulations on your first meeting. I wanted to say Spartan Gym is this Thursday at 7, sorry, but this Thursday at 7 as well, if you guys can attend, but yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Adjournment, roll call by Samaya.
Okay, Yara. Amaya. Sana. Tasha. Jayla. Ray. Alexander Ortiz. Nevaeh. Zaire. Leanna. Hillary. Kayla. Maya. Fatima. Ahmed. Tamia. Derek. Maisha. Marcel. Makaya. Grace. Kimberly. Daniel. Charlotte. Jalen. Julia. Alex. Fox. Melody. Fatima. Mason. Sarah. Hayden. Fernanda. Jamie. And Alyssa.
They got us periods. Why did I say my birthday? Anyways, I had joined this meeting at 9:14. Like, why is it my birthday? Oh my God. Anyways, have a great day. Well, good night.